Welcome to the program. Hello, my name is Neal Howard, your host here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for joining us here today. In this Health Supplier segment, we have in studio with us Mrs. Reggi Sturns-Kemp. She's Chief Executive Officer for a Texas-based Kemp & Sons General Services, an award-winning environmental cleaning company that services contracts in multiple states, government contracts, hospitality facilities, as well as healthcare facilities. She's here to talk with us today about tips on spotting and protecting ourselves from potential dangers when we're in places where people gather, whether they're sick or not. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming in today. Give us a little bit of a background about yourself. You've got this award-winning environmental cleaning company. Is that something that you've been interested in your whole life, or is this something that came about spur of the moment? How did it happen?
Well, actually, both me and my husband come from families of entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And so when we were studying in school, we always knew that we wanted to own our own company. Mm-hmm. But it ended up being a cleaning company, as life will have it. His father started it in 1972. Mm-hmm. So we're celebrating 45 years of service this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you very much. Thank you. And we married in 2000, and from that point on, I joined the team, and we've been building the organization ever since.
You're here to talk about your company, Kemp & Sons General Services. You just talked about how it got started and everything. We know that when you're going to the hospital, well, the hospital or the clinic, that's where sick people gather. It's obvious.
That's
but,
right.
You know, when you're at the motel, the hotel, whether it be luxury, high end, or maybe one of the budget variety, you know about some surprising ways that we, get sick that many of us probably don't pay attention to when we're just out, conducting business and living life. But in your profession, you've learned to kind of notice some things, and you're here to give us some advice.
I am. It's real important. A lot of times when we take vacations or luxury trips, we are anticipating rest, relaxation. Mm-hmm. But when you think about an environment that may not be clean, you don't really have the luxury of resting, because in order for the hotel industries to do it properly, they have to have the right budgets. And oftentimes when we show up, you notice that staffs may work from 8 to 3. You no longer see people working 24-hour shifts doing cleaning. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. That means if they're only working 8 to 3, 9 times out of 10, they're dedicating possibly 15 minutes per room for cleanliness, and that is not enough. Very seldom do you see team cleaning going on. You may see one person cleaning a room, which again is another sign to be concerned with. So when you have one person cleaning, not enough time to clean, and then if you don't see the use of different color coding for rags, or you're using the same supplies and chemicals, and not necessarily chemicals, but same supplies and rags and vacuums used from one room to the next room, then the potential for cross-contamination is great.
You can prevent cross-contamination simply by, as you said, color coding rags. Is that something
helps?
Is that something that should be standard operating procedure in your profession? Is it something that you notice most people aren't doing now?
Well, you'll see it done in the healthcare environment. Very seldom do you see it done in the hospitality environment. Okay. For years, the healthcare environment understood the importance because they are in the business of preventing diseases. Mm-hmm. But in the hospital or hospitality industry, they never thought they had to be in the business of maintaining health and preventing diseases. But the reality is, if it's not a germ-free environment, and nothing is 100%, but we're talking about a reasonable level of germs being left beside. So if you're in an environment where there's an excessive amount of germs, then it could cause diseases.
Absolutely.
It could. And so that's why it's real important that the industry as a whole, nationwide and global, embrace and understand the importance of maintaining health and preventing the spread of diseases through cleaning. And that's why, we're in this industry and we've seen the industry evolve. So like I mentioned to you before, oftentimes when you think of your career or your aspirations, you don't necessarily think of it being in the cleaning industry, janitorial, any of that. But every profession has its place. And I don't believe that people consider cleaning as a profession, but it is absolutely a necessity, and it should be considered as a professional service that is provided for the health and welfare of individuals.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a no-brainer, actually. When you're talking about a hospital setting, as you mentioned, they're in the profession of preventing illness, preventing the spread of germs. And in the hospitality setting, I mean, you've got a different set of standards, but still your responsibility is to your guest. Now, you're familiar with government contracts. You deal with the Veterans Administration, I'm sure, yeah?
Yes, we do. And we have other governmental contracts.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Now, being familiar a bit with the VA from a patient standpoint, I know that many locations are starting the hospitality services as well, so that when a veteran is in the hospital, his family members can stay on site in a kind of a motel setting, as a courtesy. Mm-hmm. Do you find that within your government contracts that some of the same standards apply when you're talking about the medical aspect and the hospitality aspect as opposed to in the civilian world, where they're totally separate, except maybe for like Ronald McDonald House, if I can go ahead and name them, who's kind of specialized in that?
You can't. Well, now I will say this. I can't speak for governmental entities outside of Texas, but we do have the outpatient clinic, which is the largest outpatient clinic, I believe, that the U.S. government has for veterans here in Fort Worth, Texas. And we also have the equivalent to the Ronald McDonald House in Dallas, which is called the Fisher House when it relates to the veterans. We have both of those, and from the beginning, we started with both of those facilities from the time in which they opened here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they gave the specifications that they gave us before we even, as we were bidding on that, were very strict. They had certain supplies, equipment, and chemicals that we had to purchase. There were certain criteria and training that had to be met. So they are holding steadfast to the standards and really going above and beyond. And each month there are inspections that are held. And I will say that we've passed all inspections at both of those locations since our inception. So they are following the guidelines. Their intent, I'm sure they've had other challenges, but to date, that's not one of them.
You're based in Dallas-Fort Worth, correct?
Yeah, our corporate office is in Fort Worth. And, of course, we have other contracts throughout the state of Texas, but we also have a satellite location in Huntsville, Alabama.
Great. Do you see anything on the horizon nationally or internationally for Kemp & Sons General Services?
Well, the goal is, like I mentioned before, we believe that it should be considered a professional service. So we have a professional training institute that we're working on at this time, and we hope to do more consulting and speaking so that corporate heads will understand the importance. And for them, our approach is to let them know how the risk involved. Because if they don't adopt a new set of cleaning standards and train in a different manner and understand team cleaning, then they're at risk of losing market share, loss of competitive advantage, because if there's an incident that happens, people are going to lose consumer confidence, and people are not going to want to travel, because in all actuality, with everything we could do with technology, people don't have to travel to certain places. They can Skype, they can webcam, they could do so many other things.
Absolutely.
So that's not something that industry would want. They don't want the consumer to lose confidence in their ability to keep rooms clean.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit about, your philanthropic efforts there at your company? How are you interacting with institutions of higher learning in order to change the mindset as far as the cleaning profession goes, as you've stated?
Well, for us, we focus on when we do things in our community, it's not just cleaning related. We understand that everybody is not going to be in this profession. However, we understand that as a society, we have an obligation to the younger generation to teach them work ethic, the importance of work ethic, focus, discipline. So although we may have them come through our organization to do, interns, or we may provide scholarships and things of that nature, we realize everybody's not going to be focused on what we're doing. But at the same time, we know that it's important that what we've learned, what has helped us to build this company in this industry, has been focus and discipline and the art of cleaning. Right. So, if we come across them, or if we're interacting through our Kemp Leadership Academy, or through a program that we have through a university that we may have think tanks with, or that we offer internships, they're going to come through here, or we're going to give as a result of what we've done. But ultimately, we want them to be the best individuals that they can be.
Excellent. And where can our listeners go online and get more information about Kemp & Sons General Services?
They can go to kempandsons.net, and they can learn all about us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard, with Mrs. Reggi Sturns-Kemp, Chief Executive Officer of Kemp & Sons General Services, award-winning environmental cleaning company with service contracts in multiple states across multiple industries. And we've been here talking about some of the potential dangers that many of us don't think about when we're in the hospital, in that clinic, or in that hotel room. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, listen in, and download on SoundCloud.